Good morning and welcome to today's Mitesco Incorporated webcast as part of the Planet MicroCap Showcase. It is now my pleasure to turn the floor over to your host, Larry Diamond, CEO of Mitesco Incorporated. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Diamond. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Mitesco Corporation. Today we are going to introduce an update on Mitesco. We are traded on the OTCQB under the symbol MITI, and we are a healthcare technology company. We're going to dig in a little bit about our history and our progress that we're making as we're growing the company. I'm going to go ahead and advance to slide number 2 here, and this is a pretty standard slide that I'm sure everyone has seen before with regards to disclosures with regards to safe harbor for forward-looking statements. And needless to say, we will be discussing the future of the company, so this all applies. From an overview perspective of Mitesco Corporation, we've been trading at about 35 cents. Our market cap sits right around $70 million. We have about 200 million shares outstanding. Insiders are holding about 5% of the company. The company has recently increased its shareholders. We went from about 1,000 shareholders to approaching 10,000 shareholders between January and February. And the main reason is we are moved from a pre-revenue company to a revenue-producing company with the launch of the Good Clinic, which is focused on delivering primary care to consumers. It is a consumer-focused model. We are looking to leverage nurse practitioners that give us significant operational advantages, both from a cost of labor perspective as well as a nurse practitioner's training, really looking to longitudinal care for consumers. They're much more trained in empathy and moving people over time to an end result or goal. And so using that and focusing on some of the changes the federal government and insurance companies have made relative to time and being able to spend the time necessary to work with consumers to help them achieve their goal is something we're able to leverage now as the healthcare industry continues to evolve. Core to all this, we've seen this happening over the recent years, is healthcare is becoming a consumer-focused product. More and more of what consumers choose to do is spending with their own money. Co-payments, co-insurance have increased rather dramatically, and as a result, the industry has pushed the consumer to the forefront of healthcare where their decisions and their opinions matter most, and those are the things that we're trying to leverage here. The organization sees significant growth opportunities. We actually signed our 5th LOI for clinics. We're out there currently in the Minneapolis marketplace where we opened the first clinic, and we are in conversations with numerous developers to locate clinics. So we have that there, and as a matter of fact, I just got back from Denver yesterday. We're in conversations with developers out there to locate clinics in the Denver marketplace. The market opportunity for healthcare is rather significant. Primary care in America, it's a huge opportunity. You have $400 billion today. The growth rate at about 5%, it's kind of interesting because I actually think that's understated. Today in America, we have according to the AMA, about a shortage of 25,000 primary care providers. As a result, people have to go other places. They go to specialists, they go to retail health clinics to solve the immediate needs. But, primary care really is about taking care of someone longitudinally and addressing their individual health needs. Instead of just focusing on sick care, it's about treating the whole person. And so I actually expect the growth rate in primary care to end up being much higher than this 5% number here. When we look at some of what WHO is doing in CMS and the studies, when you look at communities that have adequate primary care, their cost of care ends up being much lower versus communities that have inadequate or a shortage of primary care. And we've seen a lot of activity out there. There are several competitors in this marketplace that are getting tremendous valuations, whether it's Oak Street Health or One Medical. There is such an opportunity in the marketplace to address the shortage of primary care and make a huge difference for America. There's plenty of room out there, and that's what we're discovering as we begin to talk to consumers and have them come into the clinic. The market really has not been able to respond historically, and physicians disproportionately are looking to go into specialty medicine, and that's a function of the cost of becoming a doctor and the income that they can earn in specialty medicine versus what you can earn in primary care. The other component that's core to what we're doing here is this concept of being in the right place at the right time to support the consumer when they need it. And that's where telemedicine has made a huge step forward. Really is one of the good things that did come out of COVID is the recognition that telemedicine does provide huge opportunities to solve problems for consumers on a more timely basis. And you're seeing the growth rate there, 15%, $25 billion industry today. We think that is an integrated part of what primary care has to be in the future, and we expect that to grow, and it's integrated into our practice at this time. Part of that is when you do the market research and talk to consumers, consumers today are completely dissatisfied with what primary care is able to deliver to them. 81% of consumers out there just say it's not delivering what I want, and they're willing to switch who they go to for primary care just for added convenience and something that's more personal of an experience with them. So when you look at the marketplace, we are in a major shift that's happening in America. So much of what we've done in healthcare has been about providing sick care, solving an immediate problem, and moving on. We tend to do things with broad strokes. We have a solution and we try to apply it to everyone. And we know, in any other industry that's focused on the consumer, every individual looks at something a little differently, and we need to understand who they are. So when you look at healthcare today, we see a lot of device manufacturers, and they're great solutions for the right person at the right time. And we will use the right devices, but it's a matter of it's not a one-size-fits-all. Similarly, from a disease management perspective, this again very much has been focused on one size for everyone with a diabetic disease, with congestive heart failure, with depression. And the reality is, unless you parse these into the subgroups in each of the categories, you're going to have marginal success. And that's what we've seen over and over again in healthcare. Most of the solutions that are out there are sitting somewhere between 25 to 40% effective on populations. And it's because the solution is built for a particular group within the subsegment of disease, but they're not delivering a value across the population. We'll talk a little bit of how we view the world when we look at these populations, which gives us the ability to be more responsive to the consumer. The other piece of this is applications. Applications offer tremendous opportunity for education, tools for people to manage their health conditions if they're activated. And that's what you're seeing is again, apps are seeing nice adoption, but people are falling off way too quickly. And that's the challenge for the app industry, is how do I make sure that I'm delivering something of value to the consumer today and they stick with it? Because all too often people fall off diets, they stop doing their follow-up that their docs have prescribed to them, whether it's taking their medications. So being able to understand the consumer and adjust to a unique plan for that consumer is essential to driving value. And that's what we are doing at this point at the Good Clinic. We're focused on primary care, but we've broadened the definition because primary care is so much more than physical health. It includes the basic behavioral health, so we need to understand the mindset of the consumer and the client who's coming in, and we need to understand how they feel about their body. And being able to address sick care and work with them individually to create something that's important, a plan of care that's important to their needs, is essential to what we're doing here. So when we look at that, we are using something called activation. This is a tool that was developed out of the University of Oregon by Dr. Hibbard, and it actually defines the 95% confidence interval, whether a person has the knowledge, skills, and confidence to engage in the behaviors of healthy living. And if they are lacking in any area, it's able to identify those, and it tells our nurse practitioners exactly how to work with that person to get them to be more participatory in their care. I've used this in previous projects that I've been involved with. I've seen it used at the VA. National Health Service in the UK is now using this. It's a very powerful tool. The other fundamental thing that the Good Clinic is going after, which is very different, as an independent primary care practice, we're not out there looking for the sick folks that we can make, find those high-cost events. Our goal is to keep someone stable and healthy and moving forward to achieve better quality of health and better quality of life. So when you think about it, in America today, about 70% of Americans use less than $2,000 a year in healthcare resources. And that's a great market for us. It's a huge market for us. And as we work with them, we are looking to keep in touch with them in the same way that your dentist has pre-scheduled appointments, your veterinarian for your pet has pre-scheduled appointments. By putting together a co-developed plan of care with the consumer, we anticipate being able to interact with that person probably 4 to 6 times a year, half of those via telemedicine, in order to keep them on track of the goals that we established with them jointly. So we are about taking care of their immediate needs from a sick perspective, but really focusing on primary care and helping them look forward to improve their overall quality of life. So when you think about us, the Good Clinic is now in communities, and what we've seen for us is we are locating our clinics in high concentration residential areas. We have our first building in a Lennar Tower. We are talking to other developers. The advantage for us is that we have the goal to have lower cost of acquisition by being super convenient for the consumer, being right in their residence. The Nord House, where the first clinic is, actually has 600 units, and the landlord is helping us market to their residents because they see this as an amenity. In the same way that the gym is an amenity or the swimming pool, having the clinic right there is an amenity and improves the overall perception and quality of the building by adding convenience to what the consumer is able to get by staying and living in that residence. The other piece is we're able to do on-site community events, whether it's flu shots, whether it's talking about using supplements, essential oils, because we are an integrated care approach to what we're doing. And so we think about here up in Minnesota, we don't get the sun quite as often as other places in the country. And so having vitamin D is essential, having your B vitamins. And so when we do the blood work and we get to understand what the deficits a person has, we're able to offer, if the person's interested, in using supplements and essential oils. And what we found is actually the response by consumers has been very powerful. Having an expert nurse practitioner being able to explain how the supplements can assist them in improving their health, and it really is connecting with consumers, having that expert to help them understand what supplements might fit into their lives. And again, it's about a personalized approach here, and using technology to really help them connect and stay connected with us and on track with their care plan. From an operational perspective, we are taking both consumer pay and insurances. For the nurse practitioners offer us about a 40% cost advantage from a labor perspective as compared to physicians. Now, CMS and many insurance companies do reimburse a little bit less. It's about a 15% reduction. So we have about a 25% net advantage from a reimbursement perspective when we look at that. And our goal here is by using technology to make it as frictionless as possible. So the design that we have here is very consumer welcoming. It's not sterile, and they're very small. It's about 3,000 square feet. And so the whole idea is really to locate these close to consumers, make it easy to get in, and have a very positive experience when you're going to the clinician. The consumer experience is, when you shift to responding consumers, you have to understand what they're asking for. And that's where the expertise, the education of the nurse practitioners, and being able to empathize with the consumer becomes really important. And this is one of the significant differences in the training of nurse practitioners. And many of you may not know that today the majority of nurse practitioners, it's actually a PhD, it's a doctor of nursing practice. So it's a very high level of education that a nurse practitioners, they go through the same CME that physicians are required to go through. So it's, and 89% of all nurse practitioners are certified in primary care. So the opportunity and the available labor pool for us is very strong. As I mentioned before, activation is core to what we're doing. Being able to understand where the consumer is when they come in and create a plan that's going to be focused on what they want to achieve with regards to their life and lifestyle, and to integrate it into their overall lifestyle so it's easy and it's not something that's difficult for them to improve upon what they're doing. From a competitive landscape perspective, when we look at what's out there, telehealth, there's plenty of opportunity out there. We think it needs to be integrated into the practice of medicine. And this is actually similar to the retail and Ready Health space. Unfortunately, when you're using Ready Health and telehealth only, very often you don't have the full medical record. And that creates a lot of problems when you're trying to solve an immediate issue, so to speak, sick care. You could very well come up with a solution that runs counter to an underlying health condition. And that's why we believe that having the medical record and having telehealth and urgent care integrated into the practice is essential. And so by being able to have telehealth for our customers, we're readily available that if something does happen, they have an earache, sore throat, they'll be able to get into us so we can support them, and we'll have their full medical record to make sure that we're fully responsive. We've also seen concierge medicine, and great opportunity for lots of folks out there. We will be looking at ways to create types of packaged care for folks. The big challenge in concierge medicine is to avoid adverse selection. Consumers are really good if they're paying for something to use more than 100% of what they're paying for. And so having an aggregator, whether it's an employer, whether it's a trade organization, a union, is something that we believe is very important to make sure when we offer services out that our consumer pay under a subscription type of program, that there's an aggregator that comes in together. But fundamentally, the good clinic, by being able to provide services both as a part of insurance and then just directly to the consumer so they see the immediate value, we see that as a huge advantage for both the revenue perspective and providing higher quality service to the consumer. So when we look at the growth and what we're doing here, we do anticipate signing significant leases over the next couple weeks so that we can begin construction. This year we should open, as we look out, the plan is for probably 7 to 8 clinics to get open still this year. We are talking to numerous other developers besides Lennar. I mentioned I was out in Denver. We have several active conversations there to put our clinics inside of residences, residential high-rises out in Denver. We also, next 3 years, we should open 49 additional clinics is the plan at this time, and we are actively looking for acquisitions of clinics. There's a significant number of physicians that are retiring, and we view that as an opportunity to acquire those practices and evolve them to the good clinic model of care. So we very much see this as a growth opportunity. The opportunity for us is pretty straight line. We can acquire. We've put a lot of thought into the how we grow. It costs us about $1 million to stand up a clinic. About half of that is on the FF&E, and about half of that is on the marketing and the negative cash flow as we build out the panel. The other core to that is we are already having conversations with some of the insurance companies, the narrow network insurance companies. Because of the shortage of primary care in America, we are able to offer some of these narrow network insurance companies the ability to build clinics where they need them in order for them to grow. So the partnership opportunities are significant. Technology potential is applying to the good clinic practice. So we're looking at technology out there that will drive lower cost, greater efficiency, and greater convenience for the consumer. So when we look at where are the technologies we can apply, that's how we look at the world. The team that we have at the Good Clinic is very experienced. This is the same team that took Minute Clinic from about 19 clinics to over 500 in less than 3 years. They understand what it takes to build, to develop a marketing perspective, and how you put the clinical process in place to get the efficiency and a better outcome for consumers. The other things that we've been doing is we've been adding to the team at Mitesco. Recently, Phil Keller joined as CFO. He's a public company CFO, very experienced. And Jenny Lindstrom joined as Chief Legal Officer. Huge advantages to the company. Jenny's taken over the lease negotiation. She has great experience from the Radisson Hotel Group, and as such, bringing a lot of standardization to what we're doing in our lease and negotiation process. Huge advantage to the organization to accelerate what we're doing and reduce our costs and dependency on outside law firms. The rest of the team, I think you may have seen, the board of directors, Ron Rewall, has been CEO of several healthcare companies, public companies. Tom Broadmerkle has run Medicare at some of the major insurance companies across the country, been very successful in the PE world. Dr. Faraz Naqvi, Harvard-trained MD, former McKinsey consultant, and one of the top money managers in the country in healthcare investments. And Juan Carlos Itagiri is an attorney out of Washington, D.C., very business-focused, very connected into the administration, has worked for both Democratic and Republican administrations, brings a great depth and legal expertise to the organization. All this is designed to allow us to accelerate the growth of the organization. And when we focus on the consumer is reshaping healthcare every day. CMS has recognized that it is about primary care. They are now reimbursing for time, which they haven't before recognized. And as we move forward, we anticipate outcomes-based medicine, which the government and insurance companies have already pushed forward, adding incentives for delivering outcomes as opposed to having clinicians get paid for producing units of productions, doing things, really aligns well with our model, consumer-focused, keeping people stable and healthy in place. And the growth rate of the industry, healthcare has to slow down and overall, but we think the shift will be coming is how do you keep people stable and in place, and that's the place that we're at this time. I'm going to go ahead and open the QA questions. I see there's several that have popped in here. one of the questions here is, how does our valuation compare to that of Oak Street or One Medical? And I think it's an interesting comparison. Obviously we're still relatively small and starting up, but you look at the valuations of Oak Street and One Medical. I think Oak Street, last I checked, was about a $15 billion valuation. One Medical was about a $5 billion valuation. I do an easy comparison to Oak Street. They have about 80 clinics at a $15 billion valuation. We have one clinic. That puts us just on that kind of math. You can do it, but it comes out to about 90 cents per share right now for Mitesco. We are, one of the questions here next is with regards to our uplist previously announced that our intention is to do an uplist. We're in the process of getting ready. We'll file an S1 for some registration of shares of a recent fundraising when we raised $3 million. And then we'll go into the process of applying for an uplist. We do expect that will help us position for more institutional investors. Right now we have about 4% of our shareholders are institutional investors. So we're out there talking. We are in the process of looking at a roadshow, have several that are already conferences, presentations that are scheduled. So we're moving in that direction to bring availability and awareness, which is the big thing for Mitesco, is making people aware of what we're doing, the team that we have here, and our growth plans to aggressively grow the clinics that we have out there and stand up this business in a very methodical approach. The last question here is, I'm looking at time with regards to acquisitions. So when we look at the marketplace, we do see acquisitions as a key component of our growth strategy. We actually see the cost of standing up a clinic or acquiring a clinic, it works out to about $1 million a clinic. So we see the acquisition as a pathway, as a very viable way to accelerate growth for the organization. And so we will continue to evaluate opportunities that are presented to us. It looks like I'm out of time at this time. That's the last slide right now. So I'm going to turn it back over to the host, and I appreciate everyone's participating today. Thank you.
Thank you. This does conclude today's webcast. Thank you for your participation and have a wonderful day.